So thanks for coming, everybody, to one of the last lectures. I guess there's two more after this of our fourth year of free non-credit lectures by Hempology 101.
Yay!
Today's class is a very important and in some ways opportune conversation to be having. Certainly there's more in the world than politics, but many of the decisions that are made that affect us, good, bad, and ugly, happen through political mechanisms. And one of the challenges that we face sort of individually and collectively is to learn how to use government institutions for the benefit of not only the majority of people in any community, but hopefully as well for the planet and everyone in the world in general. And while corporations have really used politics and governments to their advantage since its inception, I think it's incumbent upon us to use political and government institutions to incite change and vision. And so I think I'm going to skip the history of politics. I think traditionally that's what's started at least today's lecture. And I'm going to really just stick with modern times. I haven't done that for a full half hour before, but I think that the time for that conversation again is now.
Yep.
And so I'll start with the United States and on Canadian politics. Not to say that politics around the world aren't important, but my base of knowledge is certainly North American, and in many ways the US affects the rest of the world, whether you're a neighbor to it, such as us. And it's something that over time we'll study more and more places, but I'm going to stick with those for now. So, since the last time I updated our handouts that I give out each week, which are on the web pages and such, I guess it's been a couple of years. They've gone, oh geez, I didn't update it. It still says 11. And now that I think about it, I don't know if I added the other ones. I just added them to,
Move on.
Yeah. There are 3 states that aren't on this list here that are listed on a little piece of paper somewhere.
We'll do it together.
How many of them?
Not sure if I can recall which states they were. I think on top of medical marijuana being legalized in California, Alaska, Colorado, Hawaii, Maine, Montana, Nevada, Oregon, Vermont, Washington, and Rhode Island.
Now New Jersey.
New Jersey was the first one I was going to mention.
Michigan.
Michigan, that's right.
The Rhode Island? No.
I know Maryland is considering laws, but they're not enacted yet.
Massachusetts? Something over East Coast.
Anyway, 14 states have passed various laws. Again, I'm missing just one. But in California in particular, there are a lot of clubs. I think it's like 500,000 people using about 1,000 different medical clubs. And in the state of California this fall, I believe, there's a ballot that may legalize cannabis for everyone in that state. And so then on the other hand, there's a number of other states that have passed through ballot initiatives basically decriminalizing cannabis, including Oregon, Alaska, Maine, California, New York, Nebraska, Minnesota, Mississippi, and Ohio. I believe since I've updated this, Washington State has also Certainly in Seattle, they have the lowest enforcement rate in any major city in the United States. And I think Washington State has passed some similar legislation. I could be wrong. Certainly most of the recent ballot initiatives in the states have been toward medical, constantly redefining what it means by medical. And the medical issue in the United States has been paramount. There's been several clubs in California that have gotten busted by federal DEA agents in recent years, and the Obama administration at first promised no more of these raids, although occasionally it seems there are
so federal
a few
supersedes
clubs.
everything.
They do, and they've been really inconsistent at times, having press conferences and such to claim leniency. I believe that the drug czar, and I think that since taking office, they've even taken a sort of notch down in the tone. I don't even think they refer to this individual as a drug czar anymore. Yeah, I forget his name, but he was the chief of police in Seattle when the enforcement of possession laws.
They had the drug czar
hit the
on
lowest.
CBC for Prince of Pot, Mark Emery. So that's where you could.
But that was before this guy.
Before
Yeah.
this guy, okay.
Yeah, that was before this particular individual. At the same time, though, and I forget the name of this person too many names, but the recent head of the DEA that has been put in charge has come up with all the old party lines about medical marijuana being a farce and such. And while there have been, again, claims that the Obama administration is not going to come down on states that pass their own laws and such, they've certainly not been cooperative in any sense with those states, and it's been a real hit and miss situation. But for the most part, things are moving at an incredibly rapid rate down in the United States. A lot of these different states have passed laws that not only allow for the possession of it, but one of the 3 new ones that have been passed allowed people to have up to 16 plants a person. And in many of these states, like Colorado, you're allowed to designate a grower to supply you. In Denver, Colorado, there's more dispensaries than there are Starbucks. It's such a popular thing. And so it's been interesting. There's actually some real parallels between how things are happening in Canada. And next week I'm going to focus on the MMAR and get into this more. But in I think Colorado, there's issues where designated growers are collecting mass numbers of people that they're helping. In Canada, we have a designated grower limit of 2 patients per grower, and that has its own set of issues. And when a lot of these ballot initiatives have been passed in the United States, they haven't been done by legislatures. Like, actually, the medical laws in Hawaii were. So they sat down and they crafted them, and they're like, okay, well, the doctor's got to do this, and laid out all the different nuances. Because as in, I think it's like somewhat, well, no, not quite like Canada, but the provinces here in Canada have to administer healthcare, so they're paying for it. So anyway, the Hawaii legislatures took control. They regulate the doctors in some ways, and they did that. In other cases, like Colorado, there's some growers that have, one way or another, through dispensaries or otherwise, collected hundreds of patients, so they can have 600 legal plants in their home, possibly, if they've hooked up 100 people. And the controls on those sorts of situations are not as tight as some conservatives would like to be, and they're so loose that some people can't help but take advantage of it. Sick people are often willing to give up their growing license to individuals based upon any wish. They surprised there aren't more people putting up their designated grower license on Craigslist and stuff these days, because